All right, so tonight we're going to talk about children and parents' rights. And when I say that, I'll give a quick explanation. So there is a certain idea that is prevalent in, I don't know if it's prevalent globally or just the US, but this idea that like they're my kids and I get to do, I get to do what I want with them. Not in a that well, sometimes but I would say like in a
The
way that
extreme sense.
there is some extremes in there, and I think that some people or most people recognize the extremes as being problematic, but it's when you get into the things that I would argue are somewhat abusive that aren't necessarily universally accepted
Yeah.
as.
I don't. I would say that the line is not even. It's so variable that it doesn't have to get to abusive.
Yeah.
There's levels of the line where some people would vehemently disagree, which is not even close to abusive. I mean, like religion ones, like the fact that I raised my kids without any religion whatsoever. There are religious people who think that's a horrible thing to do to them. You should raise them with something and let them decide to leave it if they want, as opposed to my view, which is it seems like child abuse to tell a child they're going to hell to me, but completely differing views on that without it having to really be abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. I the big problem I have is that it's a double it to some extent it's a double-sided sword. And so like I have this, and a lot of my beliefs are, this could be used against us, and I don't want that, like when I'm thinking about certain things. But for me, when you come up with, I mean, I think that there's the obvious stuff that the one that's probably the most, you know common, or the thing that has been in the news the most, that I think there is hard disagree and hard agree, and there's very little in the middle with this topic, is probably conversion therapy for children.
Oh, you went much deeper than I thought. I thought you were going to say spanking. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I think spanking is. I think there's a great. I think there's people who are gray
Yeah,
area
there's
on
more great. That's
spanking.
why I was a little weird that you said there's no in between because I'm like, there are people,
No, but
smack's not going to destroy them. But yeah,
I think there's people who are 100% on board with conversion therapy, and there's people who are 100% opposed. And I do not think, or
yeah.
maybe
Nobody's
there's some.
lukewarm on conversion. Oh, you're going to
Right.
torture your child to change their sexual orientation? I guess live and let live.
Yeah, there's no, it's no, there's little to no middle ground on that, and so that's what I meant when I said I think,
Yeah, that's a good
and
one.
part, and I think that it's tough because I while I don't, I'm obviously very much against it. I
Oh,
also
you are?
am against, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I
Learn something new.
yeah, I
Sorry,
think I yeah. Sorry, you
I
just
threw you.
derail
I
the
threw
train.
you.
You're gonna derail the train.
Gotcha.
Um, I think that I can understand if you actually believe that someone's going to go to hell due to their sexual orientation. I kind of get it. I don't understand believing that as much, because even when
Right.
I was religious, I didn't believe that. But I understand this idea of like, if you believe that the hell part is real and you believe that this is something that's going to go there, fighting like crazy for that thing, I get that. And that's where I think it's like a real, like, weird thing to fight with, because it's like, no, this is very clearly abuse. This even this is just a ridiculous thing, but you believe it. It's kind of the same thing as
Like
the
I
whole.
can't say you are intentionally doing an evil thing because you think you are doing a good thing, even if it
Right,
is evil.
right, right.
Yeah, and I think what's challenging about this entire concept of this conversation, and using this as a good enough example, is I don't have a rule I can say of where the line is. Like I can't say
Mhm.
outside of an issue, saying, well, the way you decide if you can do this or not with your child is ABC. Here's the lemon test for it. Because, like I say, well, you shouldn't do conversion therapy because you're physically hurting the person. It does pain. I'm like, but I held my kicking and screaming child down to do an X-ray to see if he had pneumonia, and I was hurting him while doing that. I gave him
Mhm.
vaccines. The shot, the injection hurts. So there are things you do that hurt your child in the short term
Yeah,
for the long term. So it's hard to even make a rule because there's
yeah,
so much we do.
yeah, and I agree with that completely. Like, where it's have you heard the
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 word.
it, the word, the bird is the word. No, have you heard it's with the definition of a woman thing coming up a lot in, because it's the gotcha question of the
Yeah.
day is definition of a woman. An example that started going around that I really like is define can you define a chair? And if you define a
Right.
chair, most likely, can you define something that defines every chair but defines nothing but a chair? And I think that when it comes
Yeah.
to
Well, a
rules
chair's
like
got
this,
four legs and you sit on it because it's a
and it,
horse. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, the horse rule. And so it has a back, so it's
Yeah.
not a stool.
Still
And
a
it's like,
horse.
yeah, yeah, it has a giant cock. No, we saw a horse on Corolla this weekend, by the way, that had, it was more than half its leg length. And I said, oh, me and that horse got something in common. And Sarah just rolls her eyes, and Logan goes, is it the big dick? So
That's a good example. Some
it's
people
good.
would say you are abusing that child by letting him be privy to that